Hey everyone, welcome to another video of DC NBA Junkie, where I'll be discussing NBA related content every single day. I'm continuing a series called NBA Team Futures, where each day I'll be deep diving into a different NBA team and talking about my stance on each team moving forward from the NBA hiatus. If that sounds interesting, then feel free to tune in on some fresh NBA content. For today's episode, I'll be taking a closer look with the San Antonio Spurs. After a historic 22 consecutive seasons of making the playoffs, the Spurs have 8 games to try and keep their streak alive. With their puzzling roster currently and some questions as to what their future looks like, the Spurs need to figure out some serious decisions within the next couple of seasons. Let's get to it. But before I begin, make sure to leave a like on the video and drop down in the comments section any suggestions for future video ideas or even ideas for future series, because any suggestions from you guys are highly advised and recommended. And lastly, make sure to subscribe. I mean, we're all here for some fresh and nice NBA content. Now, without further ado, let's take a look into the future of the San Antonio Spurs. To begin, I want to talk about the San Antonio Spurs in terms of their team overview. They had a 27-36 win-loss record, which got them 12th in the West out of 63 games that they played this season. In terms of the team, they have one of the better benches in the league. Although they're not one of the best teams at all in the league, they're one of the bottom teams. They have one of the more impressive benches with players such as, depending on a nightly basis, but they have Patty Mills, whether or not Bryn Forbes comes off the bench, Lonnie Walker, the promising sophomore player. They have Derek White if he comes off the bench. Keldon Johnson, this rookie, hasn't been too disappointing. So they have some really interesting pieces in terms of their youth. But to add on to that, they ranked fourth in points per game, 4th in three-pointers made, and 5th in their minutes for their bench. So they have one of the better benches in the league, which is impressive for them, and it has at least something good going for them. But unfortunately, one of the things that's derailing them and holding them back is they have one of the more confusing identities in the league, with a puzzling present in terms of their players right now. They have that spread between the veterans, including DeRozan, Aldridge, Rudy Gay, Patty Mills, and even Marco Bellinelli, but then they also have the fine spread of youth and all those guys I mentioned before, Lonnie Walker and Derek White and DeJounte Murray. They have their youth, but they also have their veterans, so they're kind of spread, and these confusing identities kind of puts the problem that they have really puzzling right now with their present, but moving forward, their future, where are they looking to be as a team? So that's something that you really need to figure out, whether that is dealing some players to fit what their mindset is moving forward. Next, I want to get into LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan, just talking about this duo, because in terms of what the team should do with them, not their performance, but what they should do with them moving forward, because unfortunately for them, they're aging, and for them, they're both kind of approaching free agency years and contract years, so they're trying to just get some final contracts and trying to get the most money they can, because at this point, I don't know if a championship is going to be a part of their resumes unless they take smaller contracts. But if they were trying to make the most money, they're probably going to try to make it here or somewhere else. So that's one of their problems. So if they want to have a promising future, they're definitely going to have to, I think, possibly deal one of them or even both of them, because I think the future of this team lies in the future obviously lies in the team's youth, and this team has one of the more interesting assortment of youth, young talents. So I think it's not the best, but I think if they can move on from DeRozan to Aldridge, whether that is through trades, they can build up some capital in terms of draft picks or players, and that could be very beneficial for them moving forward. I don't know how they're going to be doing in terms of their drafting and all that, but I do know that extending those contracts is what they're looking to be doing, but the Spurs need to figure out if that's what they want to do moving forward, because Demar is going to probably pick up his option this season, and that will make both of them on their contract years in the 2021-22, the 2021 off season. So they need to figure that one out moving forward. All right, after that, this is the most important thing for me for this team. It is, are they going to reset, or are they going to continue? Because continue with their team, because they're in a state where, like I said before, they have the spread of youth and they have the spread of veterans, so they can stay, within, and they can still stay competitive, but they're not exactly competitive. That's my biggest concern for them. They're trying to stay competitive because they still have Popovich. But my concern with that is it's not helping them right now, because they could be using this time to develop young talent and also improve their draft odds and draft positioning, which they're not exactly doing. I'm not saying they won't. They'll probably get a lottery pick this season because they're probably not going to make the playoffs, but it's not going to be one of the best picks. And, the middle ground isn't always the best area to make a pick. So moving forward, with continuing with these assets moving forward, it's not the worst idea, but what it comes to the expense of is their future, and building a team that can be efficient moving forward, and hopefully, help them win, be a winning team, because they're not a title contender. That's another thing you have to think about. They're not a title contender. So what their plan is moving forward must be clear for them. So it's best for their young talent, I feel like. And secondly, it's best for, building and developing a core that can stay together and hopefully, become one of those, a playoff, can get back into playoff contention, and, hopefully maybe become a title contender too. All right, next I'm going to go into the free agency view. I do this for every single team. I evaluate every team's free agency situation moving forward, and for this team, the biggest decision they need to make, the biggest thing right now for free agency is Demar's player option. He's likely going to resign it, because I know he might not be exactly happy here, but given the current economic climate for the NBA and they're in the salary situation that could go down this offseason, or this offseason, whenever that is, he'll likely have to resign, because it's going to probably be his most amount of money, whether that is the salary cap does decrease because of the hiatus. So if he decides to resign, it leaves the team with really no money for free agency, because they already have so many players on contracts, and adding his $27 million that he'd be making if he picks up his option, which he probably won't get anywhere else. So it's easily his best bet right here. It really doesn't leave them with any free agency decisions. And the other two free agents that they do have, though, the three are Marco Bellinelli, Bryn Forbes, and Jakob Poeltl. Those are the only notable free agent players. But in order to bring back, more notably Bryn Forbes and Jakob Poeltl, they're going to have to re-sign them on reasonable contracts. Hopefully they can get them on lower salaries, because that's the only way they're going to bring back, both of them, but maybe, they can get one for a decent amount of money. So in terms of the free agency view this off season, they're not looking to do much this season. They have a lot of players on contracts that are sucking up a lot of money. You got Aldridge next season making $24 million. You got Rudy Gay making $14 million, and Patty Mills making $13.2 million. And even DeJounte Murray's on that $64 million 4-year extension starting next season. So they already have a lot of players attached on contracts. So they're not going to have a lot of free agency flexibility, but their best bet is to try to bring in some, minimum veteran salaries that could either bring in a boost in scoring, or could be a help in the locker room, good locker room presence. But other than that, I think that's the best that they can do for their free agency view. And lastly, this is not hypothetical now, this is the NBA season resumption prediction, because we now know that the season is coming back. And so for this team, they are 4 games back currently from the 8th seed, Grizzlies. So, and in my opinion, in order for them to win, in order for them to get a chance to get into that series, they're going to have to try to win more than 6 games, in my opinion, or yeah, they're gonna have to have a winning record in these last 8 games in order to have a chance. Like in these 8 games, they need to have a winning record in order for them to have a chance to even get the chance to play in the that series, because they have to think there's the Kings, there's the Blazers, and there's the Pelicans that are in front of them. So they have to deal with that in order for them to even be considered for being one of the teams to play for a potential playoff spot. And it's interesting because the Spurs are getting an opportunity here to seek playoff berth, but like I said, I don't think it's very likely, because considering their situation as a team, it doesn't seem very likely because of their, the only way they're really going to get there is if Aldridge and DeRozan are sufficient players. But I'm pretty sure they already announced that Aldridge is I think it's Aldridge is taking season ending, is his season's ended. So I really think one of those two is suffering a season-ending procedure. So they're probably not. One of them's not playing, I know already. So that doesn't really help their case at all. So the last question I kind of want to leave off on before this ends up is, what will the team's direction be moving forward? Because if they're going to be a team that is competent and is teams can really consider a serviceable opponent, they're going to have to figure out where they're going to go moving forward. Whether that is moving on from their veterans, or dealing Aldridge or DeRozan, or whether that is trying hitting that reset button, or trying to contend right now, which I don't think is likely, but it's possible. That's just whatever the San Antonio's front office thinks is right, because they have Popovich, and Pop likes to win. So they really need to figure out what they're going to do based off their current player climate and their player situation, but also what they want to do in terms of Pop and Greg Popovich. And yeah, with that being said, that will be the end of today's video on the team features review for the San Antonio Spurs. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like on the video and drop a comment down in the comment section about any suggestions or how you felt about the video. And even, make sure to subscribe too. And yeah, thank you for watching the video, and have a great day.